We've used an induction hob for cooking when on hookup for a while with the IKEA Tilreda single hob, but at 2 kilowatts it was just a bit too power hungry to use with our off-grid setup. So when we saw the Vango Sizzle double hob with a normal price of £130 on offer at £69 in Go Outdoors, we grabbed one, as its hobs are only 800 watts each.
Before we look at it closer, let's have a quick look at how induction hobs work. Without going into too much detail, induction hobs create an electromagnetic field using a high frequency alternating current. This causes the base of a compatible pan to heat up. The hob doesn't actually get hot, though it will get warm from the heat generated in the pan. It's very efficient and controllable, but you do need to make sure that your cookware is compatible. Each hob has 5 levels of heat, and we'll talk more about those later. Here we're running on full power, and you can see that with this pan it is using just under 600 watts of power. Now on the same setting, but with a larger version of the same pan, you can see that it uses more power, at around 700 watts. You may think from this, the bigger the pan, the more power, but here we try a large frying pan, and this actually only uses around 600 watts again, so it must be down not only to the size, but the actual composition of the base. As we mentioned earlier, you must use compatible cookware. If you do try to use a non-compatible pan, the hob will beep at you, won't power up, and will indicate with a flashing light. After switching on the unit, setting the power is easy, and then you can adjust it up or down using the plus or minus. You can also start it at the lowest level, not necessarily having to start it at full. It also has a warmer function just to keep food warm. Let's go through each of the cooking levels and see how much power they use. As we saw earlier, with this pan on level 5, we're just under 700 watts. Here we've got 500 millilitres of cold water, around 25 degrees out of the tap because it's pretty warm at the moment, and let's see how long on level 5 it takes to boil. You can see I've speeded this up so it's not too boring, but you can see the temperature increasing, and finally it gets to almost 100 degrees while it's boiling at just over 7 minutes. If we drop the cooking level to level 4 with this pan, we're just under 600 watts. At level 3, around 400 watts. At level 2 we see a change, and rather than reducing the power to a constant level, the unit pulses the 400 watt level on and off. And level 1 does similar, pulsing a 300 watt level on and off. One point of note, because of the compact size of the hob, if you are using a large frying pan, you can't get to the controls. You do have to lift the pan off to change the temperature. Before we look at how it performs off-grid, I'd like to say a quick thank you to CarLock for supporting this video. We've been using their advanced GPS trackers on our vehicles for some time. As they connect to multiple mobile network providers, there is a much better chance of it maintaining its signal should your vehicle ever need to be tracked. Starting from only £30 for the tracker, which is simple to fit, you can get a further 10% discount by using the link and offer code in the video notes. And don't forget to also use our discount code when you activate your tracker so you get extra trial subscription days for free.
Now back to some off-grid cooking. We have a 200 ampere hour AGM battery bank, 280 watts of solar and a pure sine wave inverter rated at 1000 watts continuous, 2000 watts peak, which we know theoretically should be capable of running one of the hobs on the Sizzle.
After checking we've got a reasonably healthy battery bank and some solar power flowing, let's give it a go. We've wired our van so that we have one socket purely for hookup and all the other sockets run to a standard plug. That way, when we're not on hookup, by moving that plug to the inverter socket, all the other sockets in the van are powered from the inverter. We have a video on inverters coming up soon, so if this interests you, hit the subscribe button. The hob comes with a nice cover to stop it getting damaged during transport. Our pan set from the camper van are induction compatible, so let's see how much power these use. As you can see, with this size pan we're using just over 600 watts of power. The power we are drawing has caused the battery voltage to drop, but at 12.4 volts should equate to a load of around 50 amps on the battery. But checking this, we're actually seeing 60 amps, which would suggest the inverter we're using is just over 80% efficient. With this pan, our 500 millilitres of water took 8 minutes to boil, so that's 0.14 hours. 60 amps for 0.14 hours equates to 8.4 ampere hours. Remembering that our 200 ampere bank of AGM batteries should only be depleted to 50% to maintain the long-term life of the battery, that means we would have used 8.4% of our usable 100 ampere hours just to boil the water. Our solar was putting in between 4 and 8 amps, so it would take between 1 and 2 hours to replace the power we have used in the 8 minutes of heating the water. But in reality, it would actually take longer, as whilst the solar was charging, we'd be continuing to use the batteries to power other items like our internet hub, fridge, TV, fans and charging phones.
In reality, we found that if we use the hob during the morning or early afternoon for no more than 20 minutes, on a very bright summer's day, we stood a chance of having the battery back to a reasonable level by sunset. If we used the hob in the late afternoon or evening, there was very little chance for the solar to put any of that power back in before the morning. So we would start the day in quite a power deficit, meaning we had to use gas for cooking until the batteries were back up to a healthy level.
We have continued to use the hob off-grid, and you can see some of the Vanlife Eats recipes we've tried out in the video linked here.
So we found that if we use it sensibly on the right sunny day, at the right time of day, and for something quick, think heating a can of beans, then with our setup it is possible to use some of that battery and solar power to cook. But for anything more substantial, or when cooking at other times of the day, we are sticking to LPG. We're now considering increasing our battery capacity and charging rate by moving to lithium iron phosphate batteries. If we do, we will repeat the tests and see what difference it actually makes.
Thanks for watching our video, and as always, if you have any questions or feedback, please pop them in the comments below. If you find the video useful, please like, share and consider subscribing.